Watagwan. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. It's the beginning of the weekend. Got a fantastic show for you guys here today on Friday. Fantastic show. And I've been getting messages, some DMs, questions in the comments sometimes. And I can also tell from when you guys call in that many of you, like me, are like the way I used to be at any rate, suffered from let's say a broken metabolism. You lose weight, put it back on, or you just can't lose the weight, right? Putting in the effort, working out at the gym, walking, running, playing tennis, basketball, what have you, but the pounds just won't come off or they won't stay off. Could be your metabolism is broken. I know mine was, right? We've talked about this before on the show, and if you're new to the show and you've never heard this, today you'll definitely learn a lot about this kind of stuff, right? No doubt about that. So let's see. Who do we have in the chat so far? Happy Friday, Positive Therapists. Happy Friday, Skincare Do's and Don'ts, and Igwe's daughter. Hey, B. Pauly, you're back. Welcome back to the show, B. Pauly. Sec Amethyst, the Lioness of Videography. I do like that title. All right. So you guys have been busy in the chat, busy bees on a Friday. All right. So we're going to get right into it. How to fix your metabolism, or to figure out if it's even broken, right? But the main thing is how to fix your metabolism. There are a couple of ways you can do it. Two of the more popular ways are reverse dieting, or the all-in method, or just eating more food, essentially. They have their pros and cons, right? But we're going to get into that. So here we go.
And that is how to fix metabolic damage or a slow metabolism from extreme dieting. This is something that is incredibly common since for a lot of people, weight loss diets are just not sustainable in the long term.
You guys have heard me say this so many times. Weight loss diets are not sustainable. If you're on some kind of diet, whatever you're eating today, you need to be eating that stuff a year from now, right? So for those of you buy your little gimmicky stuff, you know who you are, it's not going to work. I don't care if you tell me about your friends, cousins, aunties, whatever, lost all this weight, 20, 30 pounds. You follow this nonsense, it's going to get fat again, guaranteed. Don't believe me, believe the statistics. We've done this. We've looked at this, right? National Institute of Health. So many studies, meta-analysis globally.
And often results in weight regain, otherwise known as weight cycling. But why is weight regained after it's...
That's so politically correct, weight cycling. Wow. So when I lost weight, got fat again, and lost weight, got fat again, I was weight cycling. Wow. Wow. Shout out to weight cycling. That sounds so awesome. Weight cycling. Yeah. I'm not sure about weight cycling, although she's technically correct, I guess.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Lost. And why do some people regain even more weight than what they lost in the first place? The reason for this is what we call metabolic adaptation.
Another politically correct term, metabolic adaptation. I don't know about that. I would say your metabolism is broken and be done with it, right?
So today on the channel, I'll be talking all things metabolic adaptation or metabolic damage, how the body responds to weight loss, and what you can do to restore your metabolism. Before we begin, a reminder that the information in this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and you should always seek out the help of a registered dietitian or medical professional for your unique case. Okay, so first things first, what is metabolic damage anyway? While metabolic damage and starvation mode are really commonly used as terms online, I actually prefer to use the term metabolic adaptation to refer to the body's response to long-term caloric restriction or starvation. The term
Now, this is what lots of people have done over the years, right? You know who you are. I've done it. You go from, you're a dude, you're 160, then you're 170, then you're 180, and you go back down to 170, then you creep back up. Then years later, you're 190, down. Years later, you're 200, down, and you're 220, 250, 300. For you ladies, pretty similar, 130. Up, 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 down. Then next thing you know, you're 140. Then next thing you know, you're 160, 180, 200.
Metabolic damage tends to make this seem like a really negative, unfortunate side effect of calorie restriction or extreme dieting, when in fact, metabolic adaptation is a normal and natural survival mechanism.
We've told you this before, right? Now, one of the callers, I don't know if they want to identify them, so they called in. We had a good chat about this, right? And I remember telling them they're crushing their body, right? It's a natural evolutionary aspect of your body, right? Your body doesn't know you sitting there starving on purpose, or you in the jungle somewhere running for your life. Your tribe was wiped out. People are hunting you and you can't get food. You're stressing your body out. We had a good chat on this that night, right? I believe I did a clip of it for females only. I don't remember which number 2 or number 3, one of them.
When our body does not have enough energy, aka calories, available to use, it slows down our metabolism to burn fewer calories throughout the day.
This is why all you guys out there who do the starvation type stuff, I don't care what you want to call it, there's also some fancy terms. Sometimes they give you fancy shakes, fancy bars, fancy pills. It's always the same, right? It's a starvation diet. All they do is cut your calories drastically. And it doesn't work. Your body will just adapt, right? Doesn't matter what you think. It's what the science says. You're entitled to your own facts, or your own opinions, I should say, but not your own facts. It doesn't matter what you think.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Even The Rock agrees with me.
This is literally a desperate attempt to preserve energy for the body to use for normal everyday functions like breathing, digestion, walking, standing.
Breathing. Your body's trying to survive. Your crazy ass is trying to kill it, trying to damage it,
etc. There are several metabolic mechanisms that influence our body weight. A lot of people might believe that it's as simple as energy in minus energy out, but it's actually a lot more nuanced than that. Based on what we know about metabolic adaptation and weight cycling, the ability of a person to lose a significant amount of weight for good and to keep it off is really up for debate. So let's look at things from a metabolic calculation perspective and consider what would actually be required to change your body weight.
And by the way, when she says up for debate, meaning science can't prove it one way or the other. But clearly, there are people that have lost weight and kept it off. You've seen them, you've met them, you've heard of them. I've done it. You've probably done it at some point in time. It can be done. It can be done. It's not that it can't be done. It can be done, right?
When we consider the idea that energy in equals energy out, the energy in aspect of this equation realistically looks more like the actual number of calories consumed minus the calories that are not actually absorbed from the food.
Yes, you know, on this channel, we like to keep it simple. We don't get too crazy. We obey the laws of thermodynamics, right? Keep it simple so you guys can understand what we're talking about.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics.
Now, in reality, it is a little more complicated, but it still is calories in, calories out. It's just different ways to calculate the calories. So don't get it twisted.
When we consider the actual number of calories consumed, this information...
Oh, let me pause right here. Got a super chat. Thank you so much, skincare do's and don'ts. I always appreciate every super chat, whether it's your hard-earned money, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or your parents. I appreciate it. So skincare do's and don'ts asks, is it possible to reverse the metabolic adaptation? If so, how long would it take? Yes, it is very much possible. The time varies. It depends, this will make sense, how broken you are, how messed up you are, right? How long have you been doing this to yourself? Essentially, how fat are you too? And how low did you get your caloric numbers? You know, if you got down to 500 calories a day and you're very fat and you've been here for a long time, it's going to take a long time to fix, right? Not as long as you think. When I say a long time, a year or two, stuff like that, right? It may take a little longer. It really depends, to be honest. It really depends. It's on a case-by-case basis. And during this video, you'll see this lady frequently refer to getting a professional to help coach you or to oversee whatever you're doing, right? These kind of things, look at it this way. If you spend most of your life doing this, why do you think all of a sudden you just figured it out, right? Get yourself a professional. Get yourself a person. I'm not talking to some guy at the gym or a girl at the gym that'll have you jumping up and down and sweating, right? That's all well and good, but somebody who can put together a customized workout plan and a more importantly, a customized diet plan for you, right? Because it's all about the food. Don't get tricked by them having you jump up and down on boxes in the gym when all the other hot-looking people aren't doing that in the gym. Do not get tricked. Do not get tricked.
May not be as accurate as you may think, depending on where you look. For instance, calorie information is readily available from food packaging or calorie trackers. However, according to the FDA, the nutrition information on a food label can be off by up to 20% and still be considered compliant.
That was a surprise to me. I didn't know they were that off. But the good news is, even if your clock is 5 minutes fast, if you're consistently tracking time over time, no pun intended, you'll still be able to track. So let's say you're off by 100 calories a day, right? And the scale isn't moving. Over time, you'll be able to figure out, even if you're off by these 100 calories, as long as you're consistently off by 100 calories, of course, if the food changes a lot, yeah, I know you're off by 80, 20, whatever. But let's be realistic. Most people don't eat that wide a variety of food as they think they do. They eat a handful of items fairly consistently. Don't believe me? Start tracking your food. You'll see what I mean.
So the calories that you see on a nutrition label or the numbers you're logging into your MyFitnessPal may be very different than when you're actually consuming. Now, when we think about calorie absorption, the number of calories in food may not equal the number of calories you actually absorb. Rates of absorption
I'm not going to say anything.
Can and do vary depending on things like how food is processed and cooked, the fiber content of the food, our microbiome makeup, etc.
I changed my mind. I'm going to say something. Told you guys before, the quality of the food matters, right? If you eat garbage and eat junk, I know the bodybuilders don't care about that. They just want to hit their macros and look fantastic. But at the end of the day, if you're thinking long term, you want to look great and feel even better. That's the motto of this channel, right? Look great and feel even better. No point in looking great and feeling like garbage, right? No point in that. Or ruining your health. No point in that either. Quality food. I remember one of my coaches saying one of the things they were pretty sure they thought, because I came to them with this theory, why my change was going so well. You know, I'm an older person, etc. And I told them about all the organic stuff, how clean things are, blah, blah. And they said, yeah, you know, that makes sense to them. And they wanted to get a little cleaner themselves, right? So every little bit counts, every little bit. If you have a high performance engine and you put low octane fuel in it, garbage oil, you don't change the oil, garbage spark plugs, it's not going to perform properly. Worse, you may break this high performance engine.
On the other hand, energy out is a combination of resting metabolic rate, the thermic effect of food, physical activity, and non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
We've spoken about the resting metabolic many times. When I was very fat, 235 pounds, and clinically obese, all jacked up, my resting metabolic rate was like 1,100 calories. Might have been even 1,000, but let's go to 1,100. Then it went up to 2,100 calories. This is after dropping a ton of weight. That means if I just lay there, do nothing, I burn 2,100 calories, right? If you were like me and you lay there and you just burn 1,000, less than that, think about it. That means you look too hard at food, you could have a problem, right? So, of course, to fix this, you have to eat more food. I know it may sound counterintuitive, which I've told you guys this before. It may sound counterintuitive, but here's the science to back up what I've been telling you.
Resting metabolic rate, or RMR, is the number of calories that you burn each day simply at rest. RMR supports body functions like breathing, blood circulation, organ function, and brain function, and is largely dependent on genetics, age, sex, weight, and possibly gut microflora as well. RMR represents about 60% of our energy output, aka our metabolism. Now, the thermic effect of food, or TEE, is the amount of energy or calories required to eat, digest, and absorb food. The amount of energy expenditure varies per macronutrient. For example, carbohydrates and fat require 5 to 15% of your energy output to digest, while protein requires 20 to 35%. Then there's physical activity, which is the energy expenditure during purposeful activity like going to the gym or going for a walk or riding your bike, etc. Obviously, this piece is highly variable depending on an individual's unique activity level. And then there's non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. And that is all the little unconscious things that you may do that use up energy, like fidgeting or sitting up straight, which I'm bad at, playing a musical instrument, twirling your hair anxiously, etc. This makes up about 10 to 15% of your total energy output. So to summarize, changes in body weight look less like this and more like this. So when our body weight changes, how does metabolic adaptation happen? Well, metabolic adaptation research is largely based on theories like the set point theory and the dual intervention point theory. The set point theory suggests that our bodies have a comfortable weight that is genetically predetermined that it will fight to defend. When we decrease our intake and lower our body weight through dieting, for example, we have compensatory mechanisms in place that reduce.
Thanks, guys. Muted. So let me go back to what the positive therapist said and bring this up again. Struggle streaming on a Friday. Maybe we should have a new thing. I struggle stream every stream and you guys try and catch it. Maybe that'll be my thing. That'll be my unique thing on YouTube. The struggle stream thing. Maybe that could be a thing, and it could be a thing. You know, Jaguar was once famous for always having problems, and Jaguar owners were proud to tell their stories at Jaguar clubs. I've never had a Jaguar, but I did read about this. So, positive therapist. Positive therapist, thanks again for the super chat. You're currently in the lead for sponsor of the show. So, the positive therapist says an inadequate diet can lead to fatigue, impaired decision-making, and can slow down reaction time. In fact, a poor diet can actually aggravate and may even lead to stress and depression. So, what I was saying when I muted myself is this is a vicious cycle, right? So you're fat because you're fat. You have poor diet choices, which lead to you being depressed, which leads to more poor diet choices, leading to you getting fatter. It's a vicious cycle. It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Vicious cycle can be in. And yeah, so counterintuitively, one of the big ways to fix this, and the studies show this, we touched on this in the Biggest Loser show, is you need to eat more food. Granted, if you don't know what the hell you're doing, you could get fatter. Full disclaimer there. This is why she says, and I says, hire somebody like myself. That can help you. Don't just go get some generic personal trainer. I don't care how good them look. Them may not be able to coach themselves to look that way. They're probably in athletics earlier on in life. So I don't too trust them.
Reduce the energy output and increase the energy input in an effort to maintain homeostasis. Our weight in this regard is a lot like a thermostat. If the house gets too hot, it's triggered to cool it back down. If the house gets cold, it's triggered to heat it back up. The dual intervention point theory considers that we genetically have a set point, but that it's not a static number, but rather it's more of a range. Outside of the upper and lower intervention points or set point range, physiological control mechanisms get switched on to bring us back into that range.
I think this is more, granted, these are both theories. You know, she didn't say these are facts. They're theories. I mean, they have not been proven yet. I think, personally, the more realistic one, the more common one is the range. We've probably seen this with our own bodies. There's a range, right? So, for example, I'm 195. But I have a lot of muscle, right? So without the muscle, I'd be smaller. So For me to be outside of my range, I have to eat extra food and I got to lift weights. I got to do things to be outside of that range. Because if I wasn't lifting weights and working out and eating extra calories, the muscle would disappear and I would shrink to be within this range. This is what she's saying. It's hard to get out of this range. Hard to get out of it. Whether you're talking below the range or above. For example, let's say jockeys or race car drivers, they tend to be very small. But they have to be very, very strict to look that way. Or back in the day with models, or maybe models still do this today. You know, they have to be extremely strict with that to maintain a certain physique, right? Very, very, very strict.
However, when our weight falls within the set point range, these control mechanisms are a lot weaker. To give you an example, if your set point range is 110 to 135 pounds, because the physiological control mechanisms for weight are weaker within this range can be more easily influenced and may fluctuate up or down depending on things like diet and exercise. However, these efforts are more likely to be thwarted if you try to get outside the range. So for example, if you want to get down to 100 pounds or up to 160 pounds. It's important to note that there is no one range size, and individuals will vary in how tight their set point range is. Since everyone's upper and lower intervention.
This is a good point. You know, some very slim or skinny people, I'm sure you remember this from back in the day, especially when you're younger. But some still keep it where them just eat a ton of food and them just can't get fat. No matter what them do. Them just eat a ton of food and you're jealous, right? So you have them kind of people where you have other people that look too hard at food and put on some weight. You know, I can easily gain weight with carbs, very easily, even though I eat a high carb diet, right?
Boundaries, aka set point range, are different and variable in their width. It helps explain why some people's weights maybe seem like they're more tightly regulated than others. I mean, we all know somebody who can eat anything and they just stay the same weight, while others have an extra beer on the weekend and they gain weight. The former likely has a very narrow set point range, so their body works harder to keep them within that range, while the latter may have a wider range, meaning their weight is more likely to fluctuate to a greater degree. Based on these theories, when we restrict calories and we lose weight below the lower intervention threshold, aka the set point range, a few major energy out mechanisms kick in to bring the body back to homeostasis. One, we have less energy available to push ourselves hard in the gym. Aka physical activity declines. 2, we may unconsciously fidget or move less, so our NEAT declines. 3.
Man, again with the muting of the mic. So, as I was saying, you can push through what she is saying, right? Now, what she's talking about is theories. These are not written in stone. You can transform. Don't let these things become a mental block. This is not her intention, obviously. She's not trying to create a mental block. But I want to be careful to stress that you don't want this to become a mental block or as an excuse. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm hungry. I can't work out. No, you can work out. It's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Just think of athletes struggling. You see it on TV, right? They want to jump higher, run faster, whatever. They got to work at it. You got to push through. You have to push through. I'm not talking when you're starving. I'm talking when you're in a controlled diet, right? I remember one of my coaches telling me when we got down to really dieting hard, he was like, hey, man, you're going to feel not the same in the gym as you normally do. Just got to push through, right? You got to push through. If you want to change, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. You worked in school, you had to study, maybe you stayed up late, whatever. You put the effort in. There's no difference here. Got to put the effort in.
We may absorb more calories from food to compensate for the lack of caloric intake, TEE decreases. And 4, we weigh less, so our body needs fewer calories to sustain that lower weight, aka our RMR decreases. To summarize, all aspects of the energy out equation decline in effort to balance out the restricted energy in and bring the body back within its normal weight range. Unfortunately, it would appear that this is not a precise science, as metabolism, aka energy out or energy expenditure, may decline more than when you would expect.
Again, she's putting out this disclaimer. This is not an exact science, because it is not an exact science, right? The human body is so complicated, right? Even with sports cars, I've had a drag racing license before. I've had cars that have been modified. If you take a high performance car and you get it fresh from the factory and you put it on a dyno, that's a device that measures the horsepower. Let's say it says 471 horsepower. You put another car, the same exact car, to the exact specifications from the factory. You put it may say 472, 475, 468. It's the same car. It was designed by machines, not humans, and it is still different. The human body is far more complicated than a high-performance vehicle, right? This is what she's trying to say. It's just not the same for everybody. And again, this is where proper coaching can really help. So all these cookie cutter approaches, they're not really optimal for you.
For the change in body weight, likely as a survival mechanism to safeguard against body and fat mass loss. We saw the survival mechanism play out in the popular weight loss reality TV show, The Biggest Losers. Results from a 6-year follow-up study on
By the way, sometimes when I mute myself, it's because I'm drinking this thing. I should just drink it and not bother about any sounds that I make.
14 contestants from the show showed that not only did contestants regain the weight that they lost in a lot of cases, but some contestants gained even more weight than what they weighed prior to participating.
Now, if this video didn't come up before my video, I'd have said she copied my video. But we did delve pretty deep into that study. I pulled it up on the screen for you guys, etc. Where this is what happens when you do crash dieting, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Biggest Loser, especially the earlier season. There was a lot of controversy there, where essentially we're taking these extremely, obese or morbidly obese people and just put them through starvation diets, essentially, and having them work out a lot. They would drop weights like crazy. And of course, you have this big incentive to win. So you're doing anything, and they've interviewed the people, definitely unhealthy, but it mirrors the real world. There were just much bigger people doing the same stuff that other people are doing when they try to crash diet to lose weight. And you damage your metabolism and boom. Imagine somebody that's 350, 400 pounds, losing 200 pounds, and then they gain it all back and extra. That's hard to imagine, but we saw it. We showed you the pictures of a guy, huge, shrunk, then he became even huger, right?
On the show. One of the most significant findings of this study was the dramatic decline in resting metabolic rate after this weight loss, meaning they burned fewer calories, about 500 fewer, in energy expenditure than they did before they competed on the show.
500 less. That should be a magic number for you guys. Let's see. Who in the chat remembers why 500 calories per day matters? Give you a CashApp of $20 if you get this. Why does 500 calories matter? That should be a magic number for you guys by now. If you've watched the show regularly, this should be like an easy one. I'm practically giving away money here. Practically giving away money. Man, you guys haven't gotten this yet? 500 calories a day, that's a magic number. Why is that an important number? I am truly surprised. Nobody's going to get this? Nobody at all? Okay, I'm going to have to give you guys the answer. Remember, you need to have a deficit of 500 calories a day times 7 days to lose a pound of fat. So if all of a sudden I reduce your resting metabolic rate by 500 calories, you could literally gain a pound of fat a week, right? All things being equal. If you still ate the same amount, the same activity level, then all of a sudden, because it would be as if you started eating 500 more calories a day, right? And this is how these people not only put on back all the weight, but they get even fatter, even fatter. Very devastating.
These results suggest that metabolic adaptations, or a slow metabolism, is actually a defense mechanism that acts in proportion to weight loss. So for example, if you needed a 2,000 calorie diet at 150 pounds, and the mathematical equation would suggest that you might need 1,500 calories at 130 pounds after you lose 20 pounds, the sad reality may suggest that you would actually need only 1,000 calories to maintain your new 130-pound weight. Ugh, no wonder people who lose weight gain it back. Of course, I want to just quickly note that those were just fictitious numbers that I made up to make a point. So don't go thinking that those are the amount of calories that you need to maintain a certain weight. Anyway, in addition to changes in metabolic rate, our hormones will likewise adjust to compensate for changes in body weight, which can influence the energy in equation. For instance, when we lose weight, a few major things happen. First, set point theory puts leptin, our satiety hormone, front and center as the main compensatory player for decreased caloric intake. Leptin, stored in fat cells, is our satiety hormone and signals to us when we feel full. When we lose weight, these fat cells shrink and leptin levels drop, meaning our normal healthy fullness signals become silenced. As a result, we feel the need to eat more to feel full as our body fights to regain its preferred weight. Now, ghrelin, our hunger hormone, is inversely.
Now, here's an interesting thing. When you're consciously aware of this fact, it does help you to resist. So, for example, I've told you guys before, poor sleep messes up the next hormone she's going to talk about, ghrelin, and makes you crave carbs. The moment I found this out, it changed everything. Because I do see, go in the supermarket, especially before I found out I had sleep apnea, and I would just see the grapes and I'd just start drooling and just go grab a bag and devour it. But once I knew what was happening, I stayed up late or this or that, and my sleep was off, and I'm craving chocolate or grapes, and I knew why I was craving it. It was so much more easier to resist these things. So much more. That's why knowledge is power. Knowledge is power.
Related to caloric intake. This means when we eat fewer calories than what our body needs, ghrelin revs up and increases our appetite. Studies show that people who try to lose weight and keep it off end up producing more ghrelin than they did before losing weight. Then cortisol, also known as the stress hormone, is often released under severe caloric restriction or excessive exercise. Increased cortisol can slow metabolism and impair the ability to sustainably lose weight.
So for those of you all there, and you know who you are, I know who you are, doing your 2-a-days, stressing your body out, raising cortisol. If you keep doing that too long, you're going to mess things up. The weight's going to stop coming off. The fat is going to stop being burned, right? You don't need to be doing 2-a-days. You do not need to be doing 2-a-days. Do not stress your body out. Do not let cortisol go through the roof, right? Especially if you're not fueling your body properly. You're really going to stress your body out, right?
Some studies have even shown that women who consume low-calorie diets have higher cortisol levels and report more feelings of stress compared to women who do not restrict their diet.
I hope you ladies were paying attention to that. And although that was a study on ladies, I'm pretty sure the same thing applies to men.
In addition, when we experience an increase in cortisol, we also experience an increase in our insulin resistance.
Ooh, ouch, ouch. So that means when your insulin resistance is screwed up like the way mine was when I was pre-diabetic, you look too hard at carbs, you put on fat. Sugary stuff? Yeah, exactly. So in an effort to do the right thing, by crushing it, going too hard, too often in the gym, you mess things up. And this is a vicious cycle. Got to be careful. Got to be
This
careful.
would mean that cells become less sensitive to insulin, resulting in higher blood sugar levels, which we know is a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. All of these compensatory mechanisms become common responses to severe weight loss, caloric restriction, and yo-yo dieting, as the body fights to maintain its natural set point weight or weight range. The most common signs and symptoms of metabolic adaptation include things like fatigue, heartburn, digestive stress, increased hunger, sleep disturbances, weight gain, anxiety, loss of muscle, period irregularity, and low immunity.
This is so important. I'm going to replay this. If you guys watched the interview with the lady that helped lose 50 pounds, you'll see where she says she had period irregularities, right? It's so critical. You know, so many people have these problems and they think something else. Oh, I didn't do this, didn't do that. No, man, this is what happened. You crushed your metabolism.
Mechanisms become common responses to severe weight loss, caloric restriction, and yo-yo dieting, as the body fights to maintain its natural set point weight or weight range. The most common signs and symptoms of metabolic adaptation include things like fatigue.
Hey, let me know in the chat if any of these you've run into, or maybe you know a friend or family members. First one is fatigue. Fatigue.
Heartburn,
Heartburn.
digestive stress,
Digestive stress. Stuff just won't stay down, or you're super gassy, or whatever. Yeah, that can happen too. You messed up your gut microbiome, right?
increased hunger,
Increased hunger. You're starving. Your body's like, please feed us. You know, like that plant in Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me, Seymour, feed me.
sleep disturbances,
Can't sleep. Like I've said to people before, if you're busting your ass in the gym, you should be tired. You should sleep like a baby. You bust your ass in the gym and you can't sleep. You keep waking up. You're overdoing it. You're overdoing it either with the workout or the food. You're overdoing it, and this is your body's things are getting out of kilter.
weight gain, anxiety,
Weight gain. You're busting your ass in the gym, you're dieting, and you're getting fatter. Again, all warning signs. You need to stop and say, this is not working. I need professional help. Anxiety.
loss of muscle,
Loss of muscle. You're weaker. This happened to me. I told you guys when I was losing that 65 pounds the first time, right? I was getting my body fat checked on the bod pod. And yeah, I was looking better and better, but I noticed it said the muscle was going down. And I went to the gym and I was already very weak anyway. The barbell with no weight was heavy, but it felt even heavier. Muscle is hard to gain. Don't want to be losing muscle.
period irregularity,
Talked about this before.
and low immunity.
Another one I would add is hair falling. I've met ladies this has happened to before.
So how can a damaged metabolism be restored back to normal homeostasis after a period of restriction? Well, two of the most common ways to restore metabolism are through reverse dieting and the all-in approach. First, let's talk about
I've done reverse dieting. That works. I'm a proponent of reverse dieting. I guess I've done a hybrid version of the all-in approach. I think the all-in approach is more if you have really serious problems. But anyway, we'll let the video explain things.
reverse dieting. So reverse dieting is exactly as it sounds and is often called the diet after the diet. It's a way of eating that is usually performed after a diet or a period of restriction. This entails progressively increasing calories over a certain period of time.
This can also be used at the beginning of a diet. You don't just have to use it after the diet. There are other ways you can use reverse dieting
To boost up resting metabolic rate back to its original rate. The truth is that there isn't a lot of peer-reviewed research on reverse dieting. I mean, this is a method that is largely being used in the fitness competition and sports nutrition area.
The key point I want to make a note here is that whenever people say things like, oh, there's no scientific evidence of something like this, oh, but it's successfully used in the sport and athletic department. In other words, by the people who have the most fantastic bodies on the planet, the people who are on the cover of Men's Fitness, Men's Health, name any female magazine, the Instagram people. I mean, the ones who don't use surgery or PEDs I'm talking about. Those are the people that will be using this stuff. So they may not have a ton of research on it, But using your common sense, critical thinking, and your eyes should tell you that this stuff works. Just look at my coach. They look better than me. They've done reverse dieting.
And success is largely anecdotal. In lieu of adequate scientific research,
I would push back on the anecdotal part. You can find a ton of people who use reverse dieting. Again, no great formal studies, right? But it clearly works.
I spoke to 2 sports dietitians to get their thoughts. Chelsea Cross of MC Dietetics and Ben Sitt of Evolved Sport and Nutrition. Now, under the care of a sports dietitian like these 2, a client attempting reverse dieting would increase their calories by about 50 to 100 calories per week. They would do this until a caloric goal, weight goal, or a perceived set point was reached. There can be a lot of experimentation involved in this, so it is best to do this with the guidance of a dietitian. But because the progression is so slow and calculated, there is a lower risk of overshooting the desired weight. As with any diet that involves adding calories after a period of restriction, Ben Sitt did explain to me that it is very important to monitor for the signs and symptoms of refeeding syndrome.
And this is very important. She talks about reverse dieting. You're lowering the risk of overdoing it, essentially getting fat. That's basically what she's saying in lay person's term. You're more likely to avoid getting fat by doing it.
Now, refeeding syndrome occurs when somebody with a low body weight consuming a very low calorie diet over a sustained period of time dramatically increases their calories.
I.e., you're fat, you don't eat much food, and you just overnight go hardcore, you go ham. So for you guys I've spoken to before on the show, you know, when I say get a gram per pound of body weight for protein, I've always told you, don't just go 0 to 60. If you're eating 40 grams a day, 50 grams a day, and you weigh 150, 190 pounds, 220, get it to slowly increase it. Don't just go 0 to 60. You will get fat. Too much of a shock to the system, right?
This can cause a potentially fatal shift in fluid and electrolyte balance due to a spike in insulin in response to greater caloric intake. This is often a major concern in eating disorder recovery, but it can also actually occur after prolonged dieting or restrictive eating. Both of these dietitians agreed that a caloric increase of 50 to 100 calories per week is generally safe to prevent refeeding syndrome and not likely to result in extreme fat or weight gain. However, some people can tolerate a greater amount of calories outside of this range, while others need to be more conservative. And this is why, again, it is very important to work with a professional on your reverse dieting journey.
You hear me say it on many shows, and you hear this lady say it like a gazillion times so far, right? Work with a professional. If you're a dude, you don't cut your hair, you go to a barber. Ladies, you go to hairdressers. You wouldn't go to court to represent yourself. Not even TV court would you do this. Sure as hell, I don't see why you think you should coach yourself.
Now let's talk about the all-in approach. Now, the all-in approach is a process created by Dr. Nicola Rinaldi, which was informed by previous treatment methods used in eating disorder recovery. It was originally developed to restore hormonal function quickly in order to reverse symptoms of hypothalamic amenorrhea, such as menstrual irregularity, extreme hunger, lack of libido, infertility, and temperature sensitivity. The all-in approach is now often used to restore metabolic function, albeit faster than reverse dieting. One study looked at the
but there's a caveat here, and says faster. There's a caveat, all right? You're also more likely to get fatter compared to, say, reverse dieting. This is a little caveat there.
resting metabolism of women who had hypothalamic amenorrhea, and then again when they've recovered from their HA. And in addition to their hormones returning to normal, the difference in metabolism was an impressive 300 calories a day. Now, you might recall my videos on Stephanie Buttermore's all-in journey. Stephanie had a regular cycle, so she wasn't necessarily trying to use all-in for menstrual regularity as it was originally intended. She was using all-in to help her reset some of the side effects of her dieting past, like extreme hunger, and help her settle into her set point weight. So how do you go all in? Now, in Dr. Rinaldi's book, No Period Now What, She suggests that recovery involves 3 main pillars, which she encourages people to stick to for a minimum of 6 months to see a complete recovery. These requirements include A, following her meal plan daily, which aims for a minimum of 2,500 calories a day without a maximum and allowing yourself to eat to full satiety. 2, cutting out all high-intensity exercise. And 3, reducing stress and making time to relax. It's not uncommon for people who have come off of a period of intense restriction to experience what we call extreme hunger and therefore need a lot of calories to recover. This is your body's way of begging not only for enough calories to return to baseline, but also to help replenish itself after months or years of underfueling it. Since the body is operating at a lower metabolic rate while consuming a suboptimal amount of calories, once you jump up to the 2,500 calorie minimum, it's expected that you will gain weight and fat.
Like I said, there's a caveat to the whole quickness thing. It's expected that you will gain weight and fat. This is another reason I prefer reverse dieting.
This is normal. In fact, Rinaldi suggests that weight gain tends to bring people into a BMI of around 22 or more, which is what she calls the fertile zone. Everyone's fertile weight is different, and it may in fact be a lot higher than the weight that you aesthetically think that you should be. The weight gain may therefore be just a little bit, or it could be a lot. You may also gain what is often termed overshoot weight. This is a term that Rinaldi herself really dislikes, and for good reason considering the moral weight stigma inherently attached to it. But essentially, some people who follow the all-in approach find that they may initially gain extra weight, but that as their metabolism adjusts, this weight kind of resettles back down slightly and plateaus. While this does not happen to everyone, and a lot of people may simply plateau at a higher weight when they reach their true set point, if it does occur, it may be for a few different reasons. One is that the initial weight gain may cause changes in fluid and electrolyte storage, which can cause water retention and bloating. 2 is that some people, particularly those who come from a disordered eating history, may have very high caloric needs when they begin all in, as they not only need calories for baseline needs, but also for repairing and refueling damaged metabolism systems.
This goes back to the question skincare do's and don'ts asked earlier, how long things can take. Yeah, if you really, really messed up, it could take a while. But a while, yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, a year, 2 years, you can be fully back to normal, be fully transformed. Because, you know, the key thing to remember is as you're being fixed, or as you're fixing yourself, let's say, you can be transforming yourself as well, right? It's not automatic that you're getting fat or anything like that.
Over time, once the repairing is complete, these caloric needs may drop and regulate to just cover those baseline needs. And 3, at the beginning of the all-in journey, one's metabolism will likely be pretty slow, which can result in some quick, sometimes significant jumps on the scale.
This is another reason why I'm not as big a fan as this option compared to reverse dieting. Because when my resting metabolic rate was 1,000 or 1,100, I didn't want to be getting fatter. I was already very fat. I was already clinically obese, pre-diabetic, high blood pressure, terrible cholesterol. So I'm not trying to gain weight, right? So as I fixed my metabolism, the scale went downwards. It never one time went upwards. So this is how I like it. I want to have my cake and eat it too. Guess I'm greedy like that.
But once metabolism catches up and adjusts to the new incoming caloric load, it's possible that we would see the weight come down and stabilize. Like I said, Rinaldi strongly dislikes even discussing overshoot weight, since it gives the impression that it's only okay to gain weight because you'll lose a lot of it once things stabilize. When in fact, gaining weight, even if it's a lot of weight, and not losing a single pound may be very necessary for maintaining health. So what are the benefits and disadvantages of reverse dieting versus all-in? Well, evidence on reverse dieting and its alleged benefits is admittedly lacking. But
again, just to remember what she said, which group of people tend to do this? High performance athletes, people who look fantastic, right? Fitness competitors, bodybuilders. Again, the people show up on your cover of your magazines. Those are the people doing this. So, and this is a case where you got to use critical thinking. I don't need to see scientific studies for this. I can use my brain and think and figure this stuff out.
Experts who do use this strategy with their clients find that the slow, stepwise method to increasing caloric intake allows for gradual metabolic adaptation and reduces the risk of gaining excess fat and weight while preserving lean muscle mass.
Yay for reverse dieting.
This is largely based on anecdotal evidence and not from actual research studies. The downside is that reverse dieting, like any dieting, may not be appropriate for those struggling with disordered eating, which is actually not uncommon for people coming from an extreme diet or pattern of restriction. Carefully counting calories with a goal of metabolic restoration with minimal weight gain can further perpetuate disordered eating and will not help an individual ease back into a more flexible, healthy relationship with food and their body. There is also a concern that because the goal of reverse dieting is to slowly bump up caloric intake without risking weight or fat gain, an individual may never actually ever reach their body's true set point weight. Instead, they may continue to be fueling their body at a suboptimal level for their unique needs, but stopping when their goal weight or desired weight is threatened by a further caloric increase. The other concern is that reverse dieting does not achieve metabolic restoration very quickly. So for those who are suffering with the physiological health implications of metabolic damage,
and by quickly, I'm not sure exactly what she means by quickly, right? Because you can reverse diet somebody in a couple of months. This is factual and actual. I mean, at my worst, I would say it would have taken a year, no more than that. Granted, I wasn't 300 plus pounds. I was still obese, but, and again, it's person to person, case by case.
Like hypothalamic amenorrhea, infertility, thyroid dysfunction, or other hormonal irregularities, they may not achieve the timely recovery that they really truly need. In contrast, the all-in approach is arguably the most efficient way to restore hormonal regulation, and by default, of course, metabolism following a period of restriction. This will mean improvements in everything from sleep, menstrual cycle, thyroid, hunger and fullness cues, etc. It's also a more intuitive approach that can help you reach your body's natural set point while relearning, often for the first time in a really long time, how to listen to your body's true hunger and fullness cues. In my professional opinion, I consider the all-in approach to be true recovery from restriction. While reverse dieting can offer some significant health benefits, it may not allow for full healing to occur, both psychologically and in some cases physically. In other words, all-in is exactly what it sounds like when it comes to refueling your body, while reverse dieting may not be going all the way, but some of the way at a much slower pace. It could get you all the way, but it also could not. So how do you know if you should go all in or reverse diet to restore metabolism? Well, it really depends on the goals and the health concerns of the individual. A faster reverse diet or an all-in approach may be beneficial for somebody having complications with their health due to a low caloric intake. In contrast, a slow, meticulous reverse diet may be beneficial for those who want to increase their caloric intake while minimizing fat gain and maintaining muscle mass as best as they can.
That sounds like what I would like to do if I was fat, right? I assume that's what most people who are fat would like to do. Lose fat, maintain muscle, or gain muscle.
I would argue that a reverse diet may not be suitable for anybody with a past or present history of disordered eating who really should be focusing on regaining body trust, not on another weight-driven diet, even if it is one that involves adding calories to the diet. Some people may choose an all-in approach if they're looking to balance and restore their hormones, metabolism, and their general health at a much faster rate, while also, of course, working on their relationship with food and their body. Whichever one you choose, again, it is so important that you work with a registered dietitian to ensure that this is done safely and properly, especially if you're coming out from a very restrictive, low-calorie diet. Other than increasing caloric intake through all-in or reverse dieting, there are a few additional ways to attempt to improve metabolism. Number one is reducing intense exercise. We know that exercise is so important, but it can become problematic when it's excessive, not supported by adequate caloric intake.
That's a key point. Not supported by adequate caloric intake. There's one of these sayings out there. There's no such thing as overtraining, just undereating. It's an exaggeration, but the point being is you can train very, very hard, very regularly if you're eating enough food. It's not an accident some of these elite athletes are eating thousands upon thousands upon thousands of calories. I mean, I eat 3,000. I know people that can eat 4, 5, 6,000 calories, right? And they look fantastic. But they're burning a ton of calories, right? They're burning a ton of calories effortlessly, right? So that's a key point there, very key point.
Or affecting you mentally. Intense exercise will not only burn the calories that you're carefully trying to add during metabolic restoration, but it can also increase stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol, like we talked about, high cortisol has been shown to increase insulin and blood glucose levels, which in turn has been linked to increased risk of obesity and slowed metabolism.
Yes, exactly. Right. If you just go too hard, too often, you'll stress your body out. So there are some people there who work out 7 days a week. I've never done that. You got to have at least one day rest. Even if you feel fantastic, your central nervous system needs a break. So your muscles may feel good, your tendons, ligaments, everything. You're like, whoa, everything is fantastic. I'll just work out the Sunday too. Monday through Sunday. You can't keep doing that. You got to give your central nervous system a break. You have to.
So pull back on any long or intense cardio sessions and stick to gentle strength training, yoga, stretching, and easy walks instead. Number 2 is getting more sleep. Sleep allows our body to
Sleep is powerful. We did a show on this.
repair itself physically and mentally. Research suggests that when sleep is restricted, cortisol levels rise, which does tend to play a role in metabolism and weight gain over time.
If you cheat on sleep, her twin sister death will avenge her. That's one of those sayings, right?
Skimping on sleep also seems to further reduce leptin and increase ghrelin, 2 hormones that are already impacted by metabolic damage.
So you make leptin lower, which means that's the satiety hormone. You make ghrelin go up, that's the hunger hormone. Total opposite of what you want. So one is going to make you hungry as hell, and the other one is going to make you, when you eat a bunch of food, like, yeah, that wasn't good. Let me eat some more.
3 is reducing stress. Now, stress can, of course, be in the form of intense
Stress will kill you, as the saying goes, man. You got to relax, got to chill out, got to relax.
exercise or lack of sleep, but it can also take shape from other life experiences and factors as well, all of which can increase cortisol levels. So look for ways to reduce the stress in your life by engaging in relaxing activities like meditation, journaling, talk therapy, yoga, or other acts of self-care. So what is the bottom line on reversing metabolic damage? The truth is, if you want to improve your metabolism and fix metabolic damage after a period of severe caloric restriction, there are 2 popular methods to do so. One is the more calculated but arguably less effective method at achieving.
I would argue the opposite. Again, I'm going to disagree with her on this. I agree with everything else, but this whole less effective thing. So there's a whole bunch of people out there, thousands upon thousands of them, that look fantastic that do reverse dieting. So I'm going to strongly disagree with her on that.
Full metabolic restoration, reverse dieting, while the other is more aggressive but faster and a more thorough approach, the all-in approach. Gaining weight and body fat may be part of the process regardless of which method you choose, and it may in fact be necessary for overall health. Whichever method you choose to reverse metabolic adaptation, it's very important that you're working with a registered dietitian, and if you're coming from an eating disorder history, a full medical team. And that is, of course, to ensure that you're not at risk of refeeding syndrome. Well, folks, that is all for today's video.
All right. Thought this was a great video to go through with you guys, because I know some people have been suffering about this. I've gotten messages about it, private messages. Can tell from the interviews with some of you guys talking to you, or just reading the comments, whether it's during the show or should say the chat, or literally reading comments people have written in to watch the videos. So I'm going to drop the link to the show for any of you guys who want to call in, have any comments, questions, etc. So let's see, what do we got going on? What do we have going on? Skincare do's and don'ts says, yeah, my metabolism was shot. Ah. Sec Amethyst says, all I can think about is fries, specifically Chick-fil-A's fries. Okay. I'm not sure where the fries thing came from here. But yeah, just don't starve yourself. Don't starve yourself. Let's see. Yeah, Skincare Do's and Don'ts says, yeah, it was more like yo-yo dieting is what she was doing. Good evening, the realest she. Hello, hello. Positive Therapist says, this happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. This is true. It unfortunately does happen to a lot of people. Let's see. Ah, yes, jumping up and down on boxes. So true. Yeah, a lot of personal trainers in the gym like to justify what you're paying them by having you do exotic exercises. As I always tell friends, ask said personal trainer why those men and women over there in the weightlifting section, who most likely are the best looking people in the gym, why they are not doing what he or she's having you do. And if they themselves look great, ask them, did they do this stuff to look great? Or were they doing what those other people over there are doing? Yeah. Let's see. The Positive Therapist. Well, actually, let me get to B. Pauly first. Says facts, mind over matter. Yes, I agree. At some point, you got to work hard, man. We've all had to work hard in school. Many of us have college degrees, or if not, you're still working very hard regardless, right? You have a trade, working pretty hard, paying bills, etc., etc. There's no getting around that, right? What's that old saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So true. So true. The Positive Therapist says motivation to lose weight. 1, make up your mind that you want to lose weight. 2, have realistic expectations. 3, focus on realistic goals. 4, keep a weight loss journal. 5, find a support system. 6, keep going. Yeah, those are all good points. All good points. All good points. I would also add the why. You really need a very strong why. A lot of people will say, oh, my health, but usually that's not enough. I wanted to lose weight to look better. That still may not be enough either. You need some whys plural, and some deeper whys, because there come a point where it's going to be difficult. You're going to be wanting to quit, to cheat, to like set the hell with it. Oh, it's Friday. I don't feel like going to the gym. Then Saturday, oh, I'm still tired because of Friday, so I won't go Saturday either. The next thing you know, you go from your 5 times a week to 2, or you're sporadic, or you're erratic. Yeah, you got to be focused and fight through that. And that becomes easier when you have a strong why to help get you through. Let's see what's going on. Hello, Before the Billions. Welcome to the show. Before the Billions has a pretty good YouTube channel. You guys should check that out. Interesting dialogue goes on over there. A wide variety of topics. Very interesting. Never boring. Hello, Needs Watches. Hey, thanks for showing up. He has a YouTube channel as well. As you can guess, it's about watches. But even if you're not into watches, it's pretty entertaining. I'll say that. So even if you're not into watches, check it out. And if you're into watches, definitely check it out. You'll be surprised what you could learn over there. Let's see. Positive Therapist says, many people are stressed and unaware of it. Self-care is not selfish, it's necessary. Yep, this is true. This is so true. It's hard to see it when you're in it yourself. It's very difficult. Because in hindsight, I wonder, how did I get that fat? Twice. Lose 65 pounds and get fat again. I remember the first time I lost it, I remember putting on a backpack once with a ton of weight, thinking, damn, I used to walk around with this. Hell, I used to jog with this weight on, thinking, oh, this will never happen to me again. And lo and behold, I got fat again. Oh, man. That is crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. Thanks for dropping that for Before the Billions in the chat, Egoist daughter. Thank you. So let's see. Have I missed anything? My monologue went pretty long tonight. Actually, it's probably the longest I've blabbed ever before, now that I'm thinking about it. I usually like to just get in there, say what I got to say, and switch to you guys. So if anybody wants to call in with any questions, need any clarifications, or just want to drop a couple comments or what have you, let me know. I still don't get what is with sec amethyst in these fries. I'm missing I've read the previous message, but I'm not getting it. Maybe it's an inside joke or something. Maybe it's an inside joke. Okay. I feel like I've covered everything, but scanning through again. I was scanning while this was going on just to make sure I didn't miss any super chats or anything else. Okay. So again, in a nutshell, right? If you have to be honest with yourself. You need to look yourself in the mirror. Don't lie to yourself. If you know you've been starving, right? I've shown you guys before what a normal adult human should be eating. Like you're a lady, 1800 to 2200, let's say. 1800 is you're not really doing anything. You're sedentary. A male, 2000 up to say 3200, depending on how active you are. Yes. So if you start tracking your food, or even if you just sit down there and pen and paper and do an estimate, and you are like, oh, I'm eating 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories. You need to have a strong look at them and say, you know what? If you are eating such little food and you're not hungry, you're not ravenous, then your metabolism is most likely damaged. Worst of all, if you're actually working out and you're eating such little food and you don't feel like, but you may be saying to, oh, but the scale is going down. I told you guys once this true story of a lady I met, had this discussion, and she's like, no, but the scale is going down. Explained to her, she keep eating 1,000 calories, it will eventually stop and start going up. Weeks later, she texted me. She's like, oh my God, I think she said, the OMG, the scale started going up. And then she told me, oh, and her trainer, he looked so good. And I had to explain to her, just because this dude has a ton of muscle doesn't mean he knows anything. Most likely he's been in organized sports, high school football, college football. If he was to clone himself and the clone got fat, he would have no clue how to coach the clone, right? So just because the person looks like they know a lot doesn't mean they know a lot, right? If they can't explain things to you, they can't show you peak success stories. They just have you again jumping up and down on the box, playing with the battle ropes. You sweat a lot. You feel like you've done so much. Oh, this person knows so much. They made me sweat. Ah. As one of my coaches told me once, Kirk, if you pay money, never pay a trainer to do cardio. Great piece of advice. Never pay somebody to do cardio. You can do cardio by yourself. You can jump up and down on the box by yourself. Oh, but I need them to motivate me. That's just another scapegoat, in my opinion. You're just looking for a crutch. So if you don't have the trainer to tell you to jump up and down the box, you won't jump up and down on the box. Then perhaps you're just not in that mental space yet to lose weight. Because when the going gets tough, you're going to quit. That celebrity trainer I interviewed said this. He said, I can't be with them all the time. I can't be with them all the time. I can't be with them when they go to the restaurant, they go to the bathroom, whatever. They have to have some amount of self-discipline. They have to have some amount of willpower, They have to want it. I can give you the greatest program ever. I can't lift the weights for you. I can give you this food to eat and say you need to eat it. If you don't eat it, what am I to do? Eat it for you? Doesn't work that way, man. Doesn't work that way. Does not work that way. All right, guys. So we had a great show. Hope everybody has a wonderful Friday. So later's my massive. May I go along now? For those of you who don't speak Jamaican patois, that is goodbye, my people. Peace.